Welcome back, sports fans. If you're new to the show, welcome. Moving the Needle podcast. I'll be your host, Andrew Nietling. And I've got a gentleman coming on for the second time because I enjoyed it so much the first time. It's Dr. Jason Richardson, huge professional background in BMX. He's crossed over into the psychology side, which he'll tell you more about. But he is working with mountain bike athletes, enduro athletes, and if you want to go back to that one after this one, it's episode 48 back in 2021, Jason.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we had a great back and forth because half of this podcast is me sort of understanding the mental side, picking apart the brains of the athletes, but also helping myself through the post-racing side. And you're like the perfect guy
you're healing from your traumas of your career. We all are.
It does feel like some of it was trauma, thinking about, what you went through and just like now not wanting to do a lot of that. But because the carrot was what I was chasing, it was easy. I rode downhill today and I said to a really good friend and mentor of mine on other things, I said, I would be scared to see the World Cup pace on this track because I physically know how much faster it'll be, and I'm already wanting to tap brakes in some of these berms. So I'm like, I did put myself through some trauma, didn't I, as an athlete? And then retiring.
I joke with it, but it was definitely. I think about that too, and every now and then I will sign up and race, and it's an emotional, like getting up for it emotionally is a thing.
Yes.
Traumatic or not, it's just a thing getting up for that, And so it's pretty funny, I'll just call it the level of energy you carry for your, during your career when you're racing, because I can't think of anything else. And I'm a pretty devoted professional now, but I still can't think of anything else that I carried that much energy and care and just intensity for. Than when I was racing, which it's a lot.
It is a lot. That question is interesting. People say, well, why don't you enter a race? And it was, there's so many facets, right? There might be the ego that gets hurt, but I actually think it's I call it the faff, the energy you've got to put into getting the bike correct, trying to remember what tire pressures I would ran and my suspension. I was like, if I'm going to go do it, there's no ways I could just half-ass the prep. Like now I'm training for this Trans Madeira race. So I call it survival training because I just want to be fit enough to do a good job, to be healthy, to be safe and do the project. Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't know where I'll finish. It'll just be like a bonus, hopefully. And of course I'll get competitive there. And I'm just thinking, I've got to go to intervals. I got to train. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And it's that energy to get to the start line is why I tell people, I just did it for so long. I just don't want to do it. I'd rather go ride with my mates. That's me currently, right? And some people live for it, enjoy it. Like Fabian Mazur, he said he didn't plan to go into enduro, but developing the bike. And you can see he still has that, I guess he has that hunger enough that the faff and the energy is easy to deal with.
Yeah. And, I will say this, he's obviously, I guess all of us have a level of mastery with the bike thing. What I know about Fabian, I think one, he may have pulled the plug earlier than he could have. So that's one, for sure. Maybe some unfinished business, meaning some reserve left in the tank for it.
In the tank, yes. He did say that. Yeah.
And two, I would imagine, because I felt it as well on some level, where because you don't need it as much, there is a little bit of release on the pressure valve. Not that you don't have to get up for it emotionally, but if it's not your, because it's extra for him at this point.
That's true. He's riding with less expectations or pressure to make it work. There's more of I don't give a F attitude. Like he could put the work in. It's like, it doesn't matter. His career, he had the icing on the cake. He defended his world champs title. He said that was one of the hardest things for him. That episode was great. Everyone, I do apologize. We now know there's some audio challenges. We tried our best. But I felt he was giving so much actionable nuggets that I just had to release it. And he said, hardest day of his career, the day after winning the world champs, and I've heard it from many a
Mm-hmm.
champion in many a sport. What now? I've achieved
Yeah.
that ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
And so I've always had a lot of respect for him and doing things differently. And he was just so ahead of his time. It's super fascinating. But anyway, off on a tangent,
Yeah.
really, which I hope we did.
No,
but
sorry about that.
No, I hope it's good for you. Like, what's new with you? What's been up? It's been
It has
4
been a minute,
years
so,
almost.
I know,
3 or 4
so
5 years. Yeah.
I'm still trying to be a bit of a mountain biker. I'm actually super bike nerd. Totally immersed in I'm on Pink Bike, I'm on Vital, I'm on, just reading all this stuff. So I've always liked bikes. So I'm still nerding out on bike stuff, but professionally working with athletes and professionals as a psychologist. I do have a clinical practice as well. But it's been really good lately. I kind of have a few dogs in the fight, so to speak, with some up and coming downhillers. Some BMXers popped back on my roster, so that's kind of cool too. Kind of goes in waves. And then, I was at a university for about a year, but that was it was awesome because I actually went to the university that I took a position at. A little bit too confining for me, so I'm back out in the private world doing my thing, and I'm excited. I totally drank the juice, drank the Kool-Aid, as we say. I own a van now. It's all kitted out. I could get 4 bikes in there. I got the shuttle rack, so I'm a cliche when it comes to biking.
That's awesome. Have e-bike? You got an e-bike?
Yeah, all of them. I have all of them.
You got all of them?
20-inch, dirt jumper, enduro bike, trail bike, e-bike, downhill bike.
What do you ride the most? I mean, I kind of know.
Well,
the answer.
I'd like to ride
Surely
the
it's
downhill
the
bike
e-bike
the most, but yeah, it is the e-bike. When I first got the e-bike, I would go out on it, and I felt like I was cheating on my girlfriend or something, cheating on my wife. It was crazy. There was so much, like, I didn't know how to feel about it. I felt there was like a little bit of guilt. I own it now, but I really wish I had an e-bike while I was racing, because oh my gosh. Well, one, I wish I had ridden a mountain bike more when I was racing BMX. One, for base fitness, and bike skills, because because if you're on an analog bike, you're getting a lot of it. Like, it's hard to climb up those hills, and there's different cadences, and you get anaerobic, you get aerobic. So it's all of that. Not to sound like I know about training, but it just seemed like it would have done and it would be more fun than being on a road bike. But from an e-bike perspective, we had to do a lot of recovery. And a lot of the road bike stuff was recovery and boring. So it's like zone 2, and I'm just droning away, and it's hard. And one, it's hard to do that in San Diego because of the hills. So sometimes I'm indoor doing that, but on an e-bike, you can hit that zone 2, be climbing up a hill, and then you can have fun going down. And again, that skill work translate. It's odd because BMXers get credit for that skill translating into mountain bike, but I actually think because of the looseness, the roughness, the stuff coming at you in different ways on a mountain bike, it translates really well once you get onto a very structured BMX track. You see turns differently. You're able to anticipate things differently. Obviously the big adjustment is the wheel size and the twitchiness, but I wish I wish I had an e-bike back then. So there's a nugget. If any BMXers are listening, is get an e-bike. And honestly, most
true.
mountain bikers have one now, but I think it's such an awesome tool for getting a lot of laps in, training, for having fun, all of the above, and even working out. I mean, because I've also done things on an e-bike that I just couldn't or wouldn't do on a regular bike.
Yeah, and I mean, you've literally got a full-time job. You've got your own practice. You've got these athletes. It's like, okay, I think I have an hour to disappear before my phone rings with someone with a mental fire going off that you need to calm down. But Yeah, e-bikes are great for that. I just think they're an awesome tool. And yeah, I guess you work with this a lot. As you said that, like they're fun. Like you come from the BMX side with all that structure, and Mike Day has been on the pod. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could see he's more like the fun type of BMXer that was incredibly gifted. And then the training came in the Olympics, and I think he got burnt out. He would always come to mountain bike races, and it was like more relaxed, and there was like less structure. And every mountain bike ride can be a little bit different than a BMX track
Mm-hmm.
and the gym and the road bike. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, would you? How do you work with athletes and people that are burnt out? Because it is a big thing in pro sports, right? Like the motivation is fleeting. Like
Yeah, and there's
I heard
also
this. I had this statement actually. Maybe you can riff on the statement, and I think
yeah.
it's the
Okay.
question. Um, Mental strength. Just people that refuse to stay down. They take failure as feedback. Like he doesn't agree with mental strength. He just thinks it's people that won't back down from failure, like high achievers.
Yeah, I it's funny because I think some people confuse mental strength with being obstinate or hard-headed. I don't view it that way. Um, but I do think there's a certain amount of because at the end of the day we're talking about grit, which is kind of the buzzword of late, or resilience, kind of a softer way of saying that. Um, Finding that and building that, I think, is important for everybody. And usually, so I worked with an MD back in the day, and he would say, "You don't need a pill, you need a purpose." And I
Ah,
love that. And I love that
interesting.
saying. And I love that saying, one, coming from a medical doctor who actually prescribes medicine. But that's an interesting thought if you think about it, because there is something to having a carrot, whatever that carrot is, right? And not just like, oh, I want a new car. That might get you through the month or the year, but I'm talking like a desire, right? Something inside of you that you barely can even explain why you even want that thing. That will drive a lot of one intensity that would also drive and that's what you're going to want to pull from when you are digging deep when you're tired, because you talked about being burnt out from a motivation standpoint. That kind of can come and go, but there is an actual physiological aspect to burnt out too, right? We talked about recovery, just from a race weekend. But yeah, you could be burnt, you could be motivated and mentally ready, or at least wanting to, and literally not be able to, because you're just flat and tired and you know not able. um so I think having that other thing that gives you a break, like mountain biking or surfing or whatever that other thing is, even hanging with your friends. For me, during my career, what helped me a great deal was that not everybody I was around were bike people. I mean, a lot of my friends were, friends from college, and they go to football games and tailgated, and they, hung out at the bar on a Friday night. But I loved hanging out with them because it was just so not just bikes all the time. And this is from a person who loved what I do. But that was a fresh look on things, and it also made me appreciate it too, because these guys are going to work 9 to 5. They graduated school, and it's like, okay, let me get a job, and so that helped me appreciate, what I did. Meaning, having well, I guess there was a lot of concessions to be a professional athlete, but there's also a lot of freedoms to that too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Training wasn't 9 to 5, even though we trained hard. I'll put it that way. The ability to purchase a home at a young age, and the ability to travel the world, and all this other stuff, whether their times were good or bad, I still had these kind of perks of the job. But I think, I talked about appreciation, but I think that gratitude for what you're doing, kind of like almost like a bit of a reverence for the fact that you're part of this thing, helps go a long way, and actually helps prolong a career. There's actually something that we work on, that I work on with athletes in general, is just kind of like like recognizing that you are, generally speaking, where you want to be. And not many people can say that in life. I mean, that's a powerful thing to say. You are where you want to be, even if it's literally you're stressed and all is on the line and you know you have to get top 3 or top whatever to get the title, and you're riding up the lift or you're behind the gate. Isn't that what you wanted when you set out to do this thing? You might not have wanted the stress, but you wanted to be in that position, right? And so if you can shift that focus from like, oh my gosh, I'm stressed and I don't like it, to, oh my gosh, man, this is kind of working. It's worked so far. All that's left is for me to go do my best, or breathe, or go on red, or get backside, or pedal out of the corners. Then that stress turns in, you can channel that stress into the correct energy and be, allow yourself to do what you're trained to do. Results may vary, and that's just the hard facts.
No, I love that. I love that. So you're helping your athletes like with perspective and maybe reframing the moment. Because when you said that, I was like, yes, like you can't want to be a pro athlete and just get all the good. Like you can't want to be the wealthy guy. You have to take his whole life. I'm really like meditating on this. You want to be jealous of this guy, that's fine, but you got to take his whole life. Oh, Elon Musk, he's amazing. No, you got to take his whole life. Take all his stress, sleepless nights. I don't know what his family life looks like. It looks a little complicated. Won't lie. Look from the outside, it looks a little wild. Don't know if I want it. I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I want all that hate online. I'm just saying, like, as an example. And then, so it sounds like you're helping your athletes, like, reframe that moment. Yeah, you're stressed. But this is because you want to be there. Like, you're in the top 0.1% in the world. Like, you have made it. And you've got to be grateful for where you are. And that comes with the territory, right? So what do you do when someone's like, I qualified fastest. I got to go up last man down this damn hill. Like when you get that call the night before, what would you say? What would it look like?
Well, I'm hopeful. Well, back in the day, I did get the call the night before. Truth.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I know to work with a person so I'm not getting that call.
Yeah. Totally.
There's a little bit more extra preparation.
Yeah.
I preach this radical ownership, radical honesty, radical acceptance, radical responsibility thing. And that's, you touched on it. It's the whole life. Like you don't necessarily just get to cross the finish line and accept the check without all the other stuff that's associated with it. Don't get me wrong. It might be easy for you. Chances are it won't be, but it might be, right? But the truth is, if you're at that place where you are the last person to drop in, I think we have developed by this point a system or way, one, not only to get you to the point to where you're qualifying more consistently and you're moving up in the ranks and all that other stuff, but you have an operationalized way to manage your emotions and calm yourself just enough to drop in and do the thing. But part of that is actually recognizing like it's going to come with a whole bag of everything. If you're excited and confident, great. If you're a little bit stressed and anxious, okay, we'll work with that too. But part of it is actually like not running away from the negative feelings and emotions that you have. Part of it is actually like, I'm not saying move toward it, but definitely it's just accepting it, right? I always use this example of like, I always ask people how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't know what the equivalent is in South Africa, but how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Peanut butter and jam. That exists.
Okay, jam. Okay.
Like the rest of the world calls it jam, but Americans seem to call it jelly. But okay.
Well, because there's jelly, there's jam. I think there's something else. There's also fruit spread. But anyways, we could talk about culinary things when we see each other in the future. So how do you make a sandwich? And they go, oh, I get the bread, and I was like, yeah, okay. And then, well, what do you make it with? How do you spread the jam? How do you spread the peanut? Oh, well, I go to the drawer and I was like, okay, well, What do you use? A knife. I said, okay, well, is a fork there? Yeah. Is a spoon there? Yes. Is a chopsticks in there? Possibly. I was like, well, are you worried about the fork? No. Are you worried about the spoon? No. Are you? Why? Because they're focused on the tool that's required to get the job done, right? So our emotions are saying things like, and by the way, if a knife's not there, you would probably use the spoon. And if a spoon wasn't there, you might even try to use the fork, right? So you're actually, even if you don't even have all the right things in place, it's still possible to get this thing done. And that's how I like to look at our emotions. It's like they're all there. And it's just energy. They can work for us if we allow them to, if we find a way to make it work for us. But I promise you have the right tools right now, right? So then the whole work is just to access is how can I access the tools that I have so I can get down this hill or around this track or through the meeting as best as possible.
And that's process oriented, right? What you've spoken about is you helping each athlete develop their process, for lack of a better buzzword, right?
Yeah, their process.
The
their
thing
process,
that you do each, like the routine and the process kind of mitigates some of those emotions, or the emotions are flowing in and then you're replacing them with a forward action or something. Like, I heard one of the best golfers in the world. He's like, I walked over to 17T. It's one of the hardest holes. It's surrounded by water. He's like, I saw myself hitting in the water. He's leading the tournament. It's like, us amateurs 100% see ourselves hitting in the water, but we're not good enough at like reframing. Obviously got more talent, but he's like, I replaced that with a positive, actionable thought to how he hits his golf ball, whatever he did. It's like the best in the world have doubts, have all the emotions coming in. They're just able to replace them with these process-orientated things that you're helping with.
Well, how many times have you felt a certain way, maybe uneasy or nervous, and then as soon as you get into the trail or into the race, it's like, oh, I can actually ride the bike.
I mean, every time it was an important race for me.
Right. And so but a lot of athletes, myself included, spend time on getting rid of that emotion. And that energy can be redirected into, how about we just hit the first turn nicely?
Yep.
Like, how about we just go on the fourth beep, and then allow it to happen? Because even, on a downhill track, geez, it seems like you're just out there forever. Because a BMX race is 30 seconds, 35 if it's really long. But so downhill track, you got a lot of time to be out there, to me, right?
Yeah. Compared to BMX,
right?
BMX, you must have zero time to.
But think, but there is time to be. There's a lot of time to be aware of you being aware, if that makes sense, right? But once you're doing what you do, you're not going to just wake up the next day and not know how to ride the bike. You're not going to just wake up the next day and you are mostly where you want to be, like, just with the exception of like, I haven't finished the race yet kind of thing. So it's a matter of learning to trust that and trust yourself. You said routine. I prefer the word ritual. I always say ritual over routine, over routine, because rituals have meaning. And if something has meaning, generally speaking, because there's a lot of people that could check the box, but there's no intensity. You could check the box. I mean, think of a postal worker. No offense, but like, there's a lot of work you can do where you got it done, but it wasn't necessarily quality. So I like ritual over routine, where there's meaning. There's some emotion attached to it. We are emotional beings. So the whole, athlete being a machine and being impervious to, it's like, no, I want the human out there winning, not the machine. Because if we have this kind of, to me, if we have this kind of, I don't want to say unrealistic expectation, but if we have this illogical, irrational expectation, that we're already got enough irrational, negative thoughts going on just because we're emotional. But if we have this kind of irrational setup, like, I need to be X to do X. I can't feel, I need to be perfectly confident. I have to hit every turn perfect. I can't make any mistakes. Like, You're just narrowing your window to getting what you want. Versus, I don't want to make mistakes, or let me see how good I could do it, or I could be nervous and win, or there's a few ways to take this turn. Oh, then you can give yourself more ways to win. There's always a range of performance. And if you're in that range, you're going to have your best days, and you're going to have, and even on your not so great days, you're still in that range. Again, to take a famous South African, you mentioned Elon, we can mention, Greg Minnaar. He stayed in that range alongside. So even on a bad day, he was still pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we want.
Yeah. He was
shave off the peaks, fill in the valleys kind of deal.
Yeah. He was really good at exactly staying in that range. Whereas I had to work with someone that was like, but at my peak, I'm close, but then I would fall off a bit, and then work on that consistency with the process rituals. Totally. Oh, that's super interesting. And one of my mantras was like smooth attacking, or whatever I'd say to myself, and I would just visualize the first 2 turns or whatever that first section looked like. Visualize getting to that, because as you said, and I stole it from Greg. It was one of his tactics, because once you got to the first 3 turns, hopefully subconscious, if you were attacking, that was my mantra. Smooth attacking was the way I got the best speed out of myself. And you do these things in practice, remember, so that you can lean on them. But I also think being uncomfortable, being nervous, all these emotions that people, I guess, coin as negative, it's because you care. It's because you want this. If you didn't get those emotions, you probably just shouldn't be at the top of the start line. So normalizing those emotions, I think, is helpful to everyday listener to the top of the sport. And I think I love hearing that. It's like we're talking about the top level athletes have the same emotions and the same doubts as the weekend warrior going to a local race. That he's like, he's probably so hard on himself. I suck. Can't believe I'm feeling like this. I'm never going to do good. I'm not going to do as good as I hope. It's like literally Loic Bruni doubts himself more than he probably should. It's just how it works. What makes him a high achiever, actually. Just like never being satisfied.
Right. And so and thank you for that. So another example I use is, because I hated being scared. Like I'm offended when I'm scared. There's a little bit of ego work that's probably should be done. But I just hated it because when we were racing, or when I was racing, the Olympic thing was becoming a thing. So they experimented on us a lot with the big hills. There was a thing called the Vans Triple Crown, where the tracks really should have been ridden with full suspension 4-cross type bikes. I mean, we're talking 50-foot gaps, X Games, all that stuff. There was money involved, and we did it, but it was so sketchy on a 20-inch bicycle to hit a 50-footer landing in loose dirt. Like, it's not, you're 80 pounds pressure in your tires. It's not practical. I'll put it that way. But I hated being fearful. And I worked with a psychologist my career. So I believed it really not only helped me have a longer career, but really helped me transition out of this thing too in a healthy way. But I hated being scared. But then I started thinking, it's like, okay, well, having had the opportunity to reverse engineer this thing, becoming a psychologist, it's like, well, wait, I don't like that. So I'm calling it negative. But like you said, it could probably help you. So if someone's chasing you with a knife or gun, you'll probably be scared, and you should be, because it's life-threatening. Like some of the things you might actually be doing on your bike, it is dangerous. Hardline, from what I see, is pretty out there, pretty wild, right? So there should be a level of respect for it, maybe even fear. But if someone's chasing you with a gun, how fast, or chasing with a knife, how fast do you think you're going to run? Fast or slow?
Fastest I've ever run.
Right. How hard do you think you're going to fight if you had to fight?
As hard as I can.
Correct.
Even though I'm a skinny man.
That's right. But right, someone's going after your
I see what you're
wife.
doing there.
You see what I'm saying?
You're reframing that negative emotion.
So that
and energy.
Negative emotion can serve a bigger or more positive purpose. Right? And so it's more like, if you can reframe that, which is, it's a huge thing, cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive reframing, it's It's one of the strongest tools we use. If you can learn to reframe that and getting good at that, so when I do race, it's rare, but when I do, and I'm starting to feel that, there's actually something that's going on in me where it's like, oh yeah, this is good. This is part of it. I just, and it helps me just accept it a little more. It's like, okay, I'm probably, I'm tired, but I probably will come out of that turn pretty fast. like I actually know that fear is just informing me. It's just informing me, but it's not dictating to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't had it put that way. I like that. Informing me. It doesn't have to dictate me. Fear.
Yeah. I mean, you have gauges on your car.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when your gas light goes on, you can complain about it, or you can just pull over and get some damn gas and keep going.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, say I do dark fest and stuff, and people ask about jumps, and like, yeah, there is fear, and maybe that informs you that you need to take it a little bit more seriously. You need to focus more. Like, okay, so on what? The running, the speed.
Slow down.
Okay,
exactly.
Is the lip. It's okay, or is it there's so much fear that maybe there's something you need to listen to. It depends on your skill level, if you've jumped things like that before. Like, that's where experience and your gut feel, I think, is really important, even with jumping, and sometimes you have to push through the fear at a pro level. It's like, okay, I've done it before, or that rider that I can factually say, I feel I'm on the same level. But I like what you say. Like, what is it informing about? So what is the danger here? Is it the speed that I need to get into the jump? Is it, if I case this, it's not going to be great? It's informing me like, okay, cool. Then I'll try overshoot it the first time if I'm going to go for it.
See,
you're right. That's cool.
I tend to veer towards a case than an overshoot, but different.
Well,
strokes.
Yeah.
But I've never hit the dark fest stuff like that.
I coach a bit, and I'd love to do more. Like, if it's like, young, I can see you probably get a thrill of like helping the youngsters next gen. I'm super open to it, right? But the jumping part, where were we? Oh, I was with this really talented little youngster, and he came and rode this new trail. And then, first off, speaking of e-bikes, just random tangent, I'm like, oh, is your dad going to join us? He's like, no, that's my granddad on an e-bike. I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. Your granddad's taking you riding. So a little youngster. Hey, do you think I can do this jump? I'm like, oh, I don't like this question. Right, stand next to the trail, watch me. Let's do a few run-ins. I just don't like coaching jumping. Like you say, should he be casing it? Should he overshoot? I'm always just like, keep the front end up. Go faster than you think. Keep the front end up. I just don't like the nosedive. Anyway.
Wait till you go where the jumps are like this and someone's asking you.
Not happening. I think you got to learn by watching and doing. And yeah. If you have to be coached, if you have to be coached to do steep dirt jumps, maybe you shouldn't be doing those dirt jumps that day. I think. I don't know. Maybe it's a controversial thought.
Well,
your skill level needs to progress.
Since we're on this tangent, I've been trying to get coached, and it's hard. It's hard. I've reached out to some local guys here who you would know. It's like, hey, can you help me with turns? And they're kind of like, not really, but they don't say it that way. They're like, oh, I'll just give you a couple drills and you can do those. Or no, look, I really want to know how. Like, I still feel like I'm guessing in some of these corners, because the BMX corners, you're gonna have grip, generally speaking. And same with even jumping or something like that. So it is pretty funny. I want to be coached, and even about the jumps, because there's a new dirt park where I live, bike park. Awesome. But the jumps are really steep. I hit everything, but I don't know. I mean, I can jump pretty good, but I don't jump. I don't boost. I don't, someone's like, oh, send it. I'm not a send it guy. It's like, no, I'm getting backside, but it's so funny because there was a video, and me and my racer friends were there, and then the kids were going, oh my gosh, they jump so low. So I want to get coached on how to actually boost more and how to. I would coach
you definitely in turns, but I do think a lot of us can't articulate what we're doing because it was so self-taught and just repetition.
Well, I know there's
Mountain
a pulling
biking
back. When you jump high, there's a pulling back, not just up.
Yeah,
you have to kind of pull back off the lip.
Yeah. It's literally basics. It's like put flat pedals on and show me your bunny hop technique. And to me, I always say is like, you need to dictate the angle of your bike. Don't let the lip dictate it.
Yeah.
Gather the information on what the lip will probably do to you, and then you dictate how you want to go. And there's a lot of pull back on the bunny hop, and then you dictate with your hips and your feet when you're going to arc and come down.
Well, I do hear a lot of bad advice just on the trail about jumping, and I know it's bad advice because it begins with how their bikes and shock and rebound.
Oh yeah, I like what?
I'm like, well, maybe, but
literally, yeah. I mean, if your bike setup is super off, you're going to notice it.
Yeah. So I probably should purchase a ramp and just do jump clinics with. But anyways, I need coaching too. So I don't know.
Well, can I tell you what would help is one of those kicker ramps, say into a grass bank, and you go for high. You figure out, like a lot of sports is like there's technique, and then there's like the task for you is how high can you jump?
Right.
You'll then self-organize from the brain to the muscles, and you'd be able to speak better to the terminology, and you will self-organize to the point that in a day or two, you'll be higher than the first day, and you probably won't even tell me what you're doing, but your body will start doing it. How do I jump as high as I can with no consequences, right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, it's not the ability, it's the fear of the consequence.
Yeah.
That's holding you back.
Yeah, and then and what do? You go to something that's less fearful and low consequence, and you go back to technique. Mm-hmm. It's actually boring. Most sports, it's just like basic technique.
That's what I say. Success is boring 100%. To some degree.
It's the people that want to do the mundane stuff over and over that get ahead.
Oh my gosh! If you think of a golfer, how many times they take a swing, a BMX racer, how many sprints? I mean, just literally from a dead stop, 90 feet, how many sprints they do. I can't even count how many I've done. And it's just over. And then looking at my little lines in the asphalt to see how straight I was. And then analyzing, did my second pedal come around fast enough? Like, it's just, did I lift my eyes soon enough? I loved
Devil's
it.
in the details.
And at the same time, it was pretty mundane. I would actually argue that probably some people with an office job did have a more exciting day to some degree. At least there was an argument in the boardroom, right?
Dude, at least you're on a BMX bike. Imagine being Michael Phelps in a swimming pool.
Exactly. Yeah, the water, how was the chlorine? Like, I don't
Mate, that guy, respect. Like, they didn't have Bluetooth underwater headphones like to listen to a few podcasts like us talking a bunch of shit. What did you, man?
Well, I tried track cycling for a minute.
Boring as hell.
Well, I was terrible. It was very difficult for me to get that bike to move, which is interesting because I had an engine, but I didn't get along with it. But I did the train, and it was just so boring. I mean, so terrible, just round and round and round. And it was funny because I remember when I first, USA Cycling had kind of tapped a few BMXers. This is pre-Olympic time, pre-BMX Olympic time. And they were poking and prodding and testing us. And so they gave us the opportunity to work with them and train with them. But I remember doing the warm-up thinking, we're done with the warm-up. But I didn't know it was the warm-up. I'm just thinking, oh, man, that was pretty, like I'm blown out from the warm-up thinking that was a block of training. And it was just the warm-up. Yeah. And then anyways, so that's kind of to your pool statement. It felt like that. So at least with BMX, mountain bikes, there's some jumping, there's some turning, there's some variation, there's some other skill work that goes beyond just the physical training of it.
I wonder if those sports are just something you excel at when you're younger, and then you obviously as a kid and you like doing things you're good at. Like Phelps's body was naturally gifted for a pool, got in a
Mm-hmm.
pool shit hot as a junior. So then it's like you set your eyes on these goals, and his purpose was to be whatever the first goal was, and then it was Olympic gold, and then it was maybe the greatest of all time, and he had this carrot, right? But those like for us boring sports to him probably wasn't boring. It was just like a means to
Well,
ends for this purpose that he felt he needed to do.
like anything else, I mean, that became probably his life, right? At a young age, what I mean, it probably was his group of people, right? His friends were at the pool, his teammates, the even when you're young, you travel a bit. That's, you get in the bus to go to a meet, or maybe you hop on a plane, and that's your community, and that's your world. Just like BMX was my world, or mountain biking was your world, and still is our worlds to a certain degree. That's because it's funny, because I'll sometimes you think of the energy you put into this thing, had you put it into something else, it's like, oh man, like your the 10,000 hours rule is kind of debunked, but had you spent your 10,000 hours on commercial banking, or for me, it would be, if it was another sport, it'd probably be track and field, because to me the bike was a limiting factor for me. I probably should have just ran track given my build,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
swam even. um it's funny, but I was exposed to BMX, and my big brother raced, and I wanted to be like him, and then that's what I wanted to do, and so that's what I pursued, and then all the kind of bricks were laid in such a way that was the road I went down. I'm not regretting it, but it's just a thought, right? But if I'm trying to make this meaningful for someone, because I don't want to just talk about um, my experience with it, but you you can learn to lay those bricks once you transition out of the sport, because your sport ain't going to last for
Yeah.
you being a professional in it isn't going to last forever. It could be a long time, but learning to use that energy and put it into something else. So a great example of that would be like a Magic Johnson, a Michael Jordan, and they built these incredible businesses with the same kind of foundational, fundamental mindset, probably, and work ethic from when they were professional athletes to do these other things. That's cool.
Yeah. What do you mean by debunked? Like I obviously know about and I've read a few of those books. What
Mm-hmm.
part's been debunked?
Yeah,
Or how do you how do you what do you take out of
yeah. So
10,000
I
hours
guess I
now?
guess there's been some. I shouldn't say debunk. Oh, I'm going to say debunk, but from what I understand, um, that the 10,000 hours rule, because I think it has something to do with, you can put there's still a certain level of what's the word, kind of inherent or innate talent
Yeah, yeah, and a
that's
genetic
required.
disposition as
You're right,
well.
right. A genetic disposition, and it's, you like, I don't know that I could put 10,000 hours into playing the piano, and I'd ever
No,
even be
no, no.
close to.
I think it's
Right,
too broad, but because like the books were like it's 10,000 of like the correct, because I could put 10,000 hours into my golf swing, but the incorrect part and not become a professional. But
right,
it's like
right,
yeah,
right.
you need a bunch of different let's
Mm-hmm.
get back to food ingredients
Right.
to become like pro. You could become a top performer or one of the better people in the world probably if you have the correct
Yeah.
dedicated training and wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
10,000 hours of structured,
Mm-hmm.
not just mailing it in, right? If you just
Yeah.
mail in the 10,000 hours on your bike, you're not going to get that good. But yeah, I hear what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah. So I
it's
mean,
not a
I'm not here.
foolproof thing.
I'm a Gladwell fan, so I'm kind of like, I err on the side of like, yeah, it probably still holds true. But I would argue that, I always joke to people that I should be a lot better than I am on a bike, given how much I've been at it. I'm still working on cornering. I'm still working on jumping higher, like all those things. But um, the skills, right, it takes, or whatever it takes to kind of achieve at a high level in a specific thing, can map over to something else. And that's for me as a psychologist, that's super important. And that's super important. Having been a rider, having to figure out what's next, that's super important that everyone I work with, especially younger athletes, get a little piece of that, right? That there's an understanding there that this is great. We're going to do our best to get you to the podium, to get you to the factory sponsor, to get you the extension on the contract. Great. But like totally recognize that this is long game, even beyond racing.
Yeah, that's you. Those athletes are lucky to have you preaching that to them so early. And
yeah, and I do get a bit preachy there.
Yeah, but yeah, they were like, "Thanks, Dad." We're like,
Yeah.
okay, like what 20-year-old? It's tough. I mean, that's great if they're young and they are taking the mentorship from you. But I agree, like it's hey, put the work in. It most likely will work on. If it doesn't, it's such an amazing tool for other places in life. So I'm hearing you do believe in like genetic, like God-given talent, for lack of a better term. Like, what do you think about that? Where you just like some people pick up a baseball bat and they're just good, or
they're made for that sport.
Or in the book, it's like, but it was their environment, and it's because they walked to school and then they ran to school. It wasn't because they were genetically from Kenya. Like I'm kind of torn as well. I just think you need all of it, but there's just like some things like,
I mean,
like I was pretty good at most sports, not an ego thing. I did okay in school. Maths wasn't that difficult to me. I did my homework fine. I got lucky. My mom was good at like helping with structure. My brother, complete opposite. He's so gifted in other ways, right? So that's clearly genetic. And then we're both pretty good at bikes because my dad rode. So we started at a young age, and then we just did like more hours on it than anyone else in our school, right? Like, we just naturally gifted at bikes, or hand-eye coordination was pretty decent and I was good at other sports.
You might have a predisposition for like a better spatial awareness or proprioception, balance, those types of things. So I have 2 boys. They're both crazy athletic, but in different ways. None of them. And both essentially fast twitch type athletes. But one is more finesse. My oldest is more finesse. So he gets on a bike. He actually understands what foot should be up in a corner and kind of, and he's actually good threading a needle and woodsy stuff. But he likes that, I don't know where that came, but he's good on a bike. The other one's good on a bike, but in a different way. He's going to muscle through everything and just power through it. But they both can hit the jumps. They both can they can both do the things, but they do them. It expresses itself in a different way that's natural to them. And then there's some people who they might like bikes. And I've seen this coming up through racing where they just, they race, but they love the sport, but they're not fast. That's just where they are.
And they've had the hours and the experience.
And they've had the hours and they've ridden, and I'm saying speed, right? But they might have this amazing ability, once we get to the skate park or once we get, those kinds of things. So I do think there is a predisposition to some degree. And then I think there's a matter of how can we, and then environment matters too. I do a personality assessment because every person has a temperament of sorts, and you kind of map these 5 traits of personality. What we say in psychology, generally speaking, is personality is relatively pervasive over time. So what that means is if you took this personality assessment, at 20 and then 30 and then 50 and then 60, you wouldn't have that much of a variance. Barring anything kind of catastrophic, right? Something really just like happened that was triggering. But even still, it ferrets that out from a testing perspective. That's how empirically valid it is. So, there's some people who are naturally more resilient. There's some people who are naturally more outgoing or shy or willing to share their opinion or not. All these things, more adventurous or not. And so, depending on the environment and what's being asked of you from that environment or even chosen environment, that can play, that can play a role in, how much energy you spend doing a thing. So for me, like psychology and speaking and working with people, I can't think of a much better thing I could do based on me. And I'm lucky.
And is that doing a personality test as well? Does that align with your career?
So when I did that, I said a lot of my strengths and personality traits matched up to I should be doing this.
Awesome.
Yeah,
but you'd already chosen. You'd already naturally chosen the career.
Yeah, there's a lot of things a person can do.
Yes,
but it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Yes,
right. And there's a lot of things you should do, and it doesn't necessarily mean you can do it. So there is a it's like, what is it, Happy Gilmore, right? he's like, I'm a hockey player, and he was terrible, but apparently he was really good at golf, right? So,
dude, the movies, they have a sequel or whatever.
Oh, really?
Number 2.
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and they got all the pros involved. Side tangent.
Nice.
You can see I'm excited about golf.
But there is an essence of truth to that, right? So, So it's an interesting thing. So the people that generally are at an elite level or sub elite level of a sport, they're there for a reason, not necessarily for me to judge why or how. It's really more like, okay, how can we take who you are and what you got to get that closer to the sharper, the sharper end of the sport.
Are there overlaps of certain personality traits with high achievers? Or are they all varied on the spectrum?
So it's interesting. I've done the personality assessments. I do it with athletes, but I've done it with like executives. That's where I learned the trade. And it was very interesting because a lot of people, not all high achieving people consider themselves high achieving. Different the bar, but 2 is it's all over the map. You'd think, because there's actually a section that says consolidation, which is essentially like your focus. And some people are serial taskers. I must do A, then I will do B. And some people are a little disorganized in how they get things done. I'm going to spin a plate here, then spin one here. But yet those 2 people can be, C-level, executive level person in company XYZ. So it's not a matter of, so from that standpoint, that's personality. There actually might be an actual skill that they're just really good at something or talented at something, or they see something in a certain way that allows them to do it or it might be the actual way they do it. But I guess long answer to your question is personality type a bit. But once you start breaking it down into the personality traits, it can be varied. But what I will say is with bikes and athletes, especially on the BMX side, I've noticed it does attract a pretty good portion of ADHD. That's not a personality, but ADHD types.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've noticed. It's anecdotal. It's not scientific. It is not scientific. It is not scientific.
I'm sure I'm not neutral on that spectrum.
Right. But the bikes and the moving fast and things coming at you fast like that can actually be considered calming to a certain degree. The activity of that.
Well, I feel like it gets you out of your head. You got nowhere else to be but present.
Right.
Like hurtling down a hill. It's probably like soothing than being in your own head.
Right, because with an ADHD brain, boom, 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 it's moving fast. Everything's important. And then when you're going down a hill at 20K or whatever it is, that's an American trying to convert mileage, but fast, everything is important. and at the same time, only one thing's important, right?
Shit, that's so interesting.
So the world, so if the world is sped up as fast as your brain, it's great. I always say ADHD, and I learned this from a colleague of mine, but I kind of took it. But I say it's an allergy to boredom. It's an allergy to boredom. And so the faster things are moving, the better it is for you, which is unfortunate because that's, video games are kind of like training most humans to be ADHD. But
well, I was going to say, do you
yeah.
believe in the level of diagnosis that's happening at the moment? Like, it never really used to be a thing. So it's like self-inflicted.
Yeah. I don't. I do think I do. And I'll say that. Well, I'll say this. I think it kind of goes both ways. I think there's a name for everything, just because as humans we tend to learn more and do more. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's debilitating or bad, right? So at the end of the day, sorry, before I get to that point, the other side to that is because so much information's out there, the non-clinical person can look up on PubMed or NIA or whatever it is and kind of self-diagnose and say they have this condition. And what I fear with everyone is that people identify with whatever that thing is, or over-identify with whatever that thing is, and view it as some kind of limit. And don't get me wrong, everyone has limits,
or excuse,
or excuse.
Like, I'll even say to my wife jokingly, like, "Oh yeah, but I probably got a bit of ADHD. Sorry, like I forgot X, Y, Z." She's like, "No, you literally weren't focusing. You were trying to multitask." And it's like, yeah, or you looked at your phone. Then we had a conversation. Clearly, your mind's not going to switch off. It's like that's current society level, of the phone addiction, stuff like that. And I hope people, if you really feel like you're not getting through life and you want to get diagnosed, but like, I feel like it's not a limiting thing. If you're aware of it, it's like an emotion. It's like this. It's like, okay, but what steps do I take to function with it? Or what are the positives of it, right? That's a proper tangent.
Yeah,
but
and again,
it's quite like personal to me, as well as like I'm passionate about like health and holistic way of doing things, even though people do get prescribed things and often they may need that, but maybe there are other ways to get around it.
Right. So for me, it's, and this is coming from a person who would hurdle themselves over a 50-footer on a 20-inch and working with people who do equally smart things. For me, is what you're doing generally healthy, productive, and or constructive, right? Because everyone's got something, whether it's diagnosable or not, but everyone's dealing with some kind of, whether it's family hardship or just kind of like life is not necessarily easy. It's not a given. So if you can look at your behavior and say, all right, well, is this good for me? And I mean that, like, good for you. And by the way, you riding a bike might not be good for you. It'll get to a point where it's not good for you anymore. It could, right? So again, radical honesty, radical responsibility.
Like, it's not healthy for you emotionally.
Correct.
And like,
correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
like, let's take a break. Let's see if we can find something else that's somewhat fulfilling or just kind of gives you some rest or whatever that might be that is warranted. So that's kind of how I look at it. So whether a person has ADHD or not, or anxiety or not, it's like, okay, how held back are we by this thing, if at all? And then how do we work with it to move toward not necessarily just what we want, but who we want to be, right? So there's a lot of self-awareness stuff and self-acceptance stuff. One of my favorite words is trust. And I think when athletes start to doubt, I think it's because we place or we're looking for certainty in an outcome. And the truth is you probably will never really, like, no one has a crystal ball that's perfectly clear. Fuzzy at best. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's sometimes where you can see around the corner and you know it, but even then you don't know it. So if you can put your trust in you a little more, right? And also accept that you're human, it actually might free you up to do the things you say you want to do and get the things you want to get. But that's gets a little bit existential. There is a thing called existential therapy, by the way. But that's the piece. It's kind of like accepting your mortality in all of this.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
and if you can accept that, then it's like, okay, now I'm dangerous. Right. It's because I know this could be it that I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah, I'm meditating on that a lot. This other concept of like, you'll never solve all your problems, or your business will never be smooth. Like, there's just always going to be problems. So they just reframe them as challenges, like move toward these challenges. Like, and that's also, and then we're all going to be gone. Even if you did something extremely amazing in this world, within what, 2-3 generations, your name's gone, forgotten. Like, it actually doesn't matter. In the moment, obviously, as an athlete, it's like the world's going to end, and it does feel that way. And like, if you just, I guess you probably help your athletes with that. Like, it does suck right now, but like, you will be gone one day. So lean into it.
Yeah, right. So it's a thing we used to joke about. I don't know if you know who Greg Romero is, but good friend of mine. Yeah,
I've heard of him. He was BMX.
We grew up racing together. He actually was Mike Day's coach.
No, I know the name. Yeah. I'm old enough to know the name as well. Don't worry.
During his Olympic run. Yeah. But we used to, when we were racing and we were traveling together, we had this thing that's like, no one cares but you. But it wasn't a negative. It was actually empowering to say that. No one cares but you. It was actually freeing. It's like, okay, another one of my favorite words, agency, right? I'm choosing to do this. Like, for this moment at this track, like, time stands still and all that matters is this. And I care about it because I chose to do this thing, and it only matters to me. But I'm still loved at home. I still have my friends. I still have, I'm still me, regardless if I win or don't make it. But it was just a little bit less baggage to carry up to the gate.
No, I like that. I've got another saying. We were talking about personality types. So I did make a note. I was like, I have to actually ask you this. There's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of Modern Wisdom podcast. I quite enjoy this Chris guy. And one of his things is, type A people have type B problems. Type B people have type A problems. Meaning, like, if you're a high achiever, you have a problem with actually slowing down, actually not taking everything so seriously. And sometimes type B people, they have type A problems. Maybe they need a little kick in the ass. They need to work on their grit. They need to get up and go, But in society, like, you can't moan when you're a type A person with type B problems. You can't, Type B guys, you can say, work harder, get grit. But to, like, say, have sympathy and empathy for someone that's got a bit too much stress and a bit too much money and can't handle slowing down. Like, you're not allowed to give him sympathy. I might have butchered a bit. He's probably not listening, but thanks to him, he's made me think about that. I'm like,
Is that Chris Willix?
Yeah, Chris Williamson.
Okay.
His podcast is Under Modern Wisdom, and I've enjoyed a lot of his, like, thought-provoking conversations. And I was like, that makes sense. Like, the reason we do so well is you just never stop. And sometimes it would probably be healthier to take a break. And maybe that's where you come in with your athletes,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's like, what stage are they in their career?
Fair. Yeah.
True. Because the ugly truth is, forget athletes, right? I worked at a university for a year. When you're starting your career, the math is you just don't have as many options. and you don't have as much experience.
Work-life balance is not a thing. That's what a rich guy tells you at 50.
That's the ugly truth. I mean, it's say yes as many times as you can so that you have the ability to say no later on.
Yeah.
Because if you say no, you won't start. Oh, I don't want to work that. I don't want to start. I want to be in the warehouse. I don't want to ship packages.
God.
I don't want to. Yeah. It's like I don't want to either. I didn't want to dig ditches when I dug ditches next to another guy who became a top AA pro. Like we literally were working Vegas in construction, like just digging ditches, and we just would be like in Vegas. And let me tell you something: the shovel does not hit that dirt like sparks fly. There's no. It ain't the Pacific Northwest, okay? You don't just dig down and it's just this lush, fertile ground. And we would just stop and just look at each other and go, "There's got to be another way. There's got to be another way," right? And granted, a little bit of privilege there. It was my dad's company, but he put me on the job site. Like I didn't work with him; I worked for him, and it was 100 degrees, digging ditches, but thank God to him, he didn't give me the opportunity to say no. He's like, "This is what you're doing." But it gave me a perspective, one. And two, it allowed me to, it wasn't for me, one. And two, it gave me a perspective. But you say yes to a lot of things, and maybe some of them aren't ideal. But if you can do that enough times, you'll have perspective, you'll have an experience, and you'll have the ability and also the gravitas, like other people will actually say, yeah, they put in that work, they put in that that elbow grease, so to speak, and then you have the ability, you literally will have the ability to say no moving forward because you've set yourself up to do that. And that's the ugly truth that a lot of people don't necessarily want to hear. I would like work-life balance. I like taking time to rest and recover and all that stuff. However, there are some actual responsibilities in this life if you want to choose to live, if you want to be in the modern world. You can be a beach bum and just couch surf, but it might not be fulfilling after you get past a certain age. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying these are just like legitimate choices we make. And so I always, when people are starting something new or younger, it's like, say yes to a lot of things so that you can, be choosy later on.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I think that's great guidance if everyone's listening. Like, a lot of spoken about new generation not wanting to work and new generation, like just the Instagram mentality of like, I want to be an influencer or I want to be a CEO of a company. It's like, dude, you need to take his whole life. You need to take all the grit. You want to be like Dr. here? It's like, well, you finished your career, went studying, grafted your ass off. Now you get to call yourself a psychologist. And how did you pay for your racing? Like you dug trenches in Vegas. I just think, yeah. The modern youngsters not seeing that. It's unfortunate, like we're all at the age now we're like thankful for our hard times. Like you're probably thankful to your dad. You're like, great, taught me a great lesson there. Fucking didn't want to dig trenches. It probably
he knew that.
It lit a fire in my ass to train harder. He knew it.
Yeah. No, he knew that. What he didn't expect is that I would choose to race.
Yeah, he's like, damn, that was an interesting middle finger I got back.
Well, he was more like, you're going to. He did that because one, it was the lowest level position, but two, he's like, no, you're going to go to school.
Yeah.
And that was true. I did. So the racing thing was like extra, but I had to prove that, so so anyways, that's a whole nother thing. But, I will say the young people that I've had the good fortune to work with, they do, I would say, if I'm being honest, they have a better work ethic for their sport than I did. Granted, it was different times, but they're all training. They're all doing a good job at trying to eat right. And, they work hard. They work hard. I mean, actually, I would actually say something, maybe even like a little bit like, hey, be a kid a little bit still, you know, because I think
type A youngster with a type B problem.
Well, you know, look, it's one thing, you know, kind of 18, 19, 20. It's another thing if you're 15, 16. It's like, no,
I agree.
Go to your high school dance, go to your, you know, go to the burger shop on the weekend, like be a kid, because you don't necessarily get that back.
Who's connecting you with these young? Is it the parents asking you for some help? If you're with guys that young,
yeah. So usually, when I take on clients, I kind of say like 14 is about as young as I'd go. That's kind of my limit. I think I really think kids should be kids. I think kids should do other sports. I mean, I sucked at riding bikes when I was younger. Or I just didn't care enough. It was just fun for me. And I think that allowed me to do better. And I think you just developmentally become a better athlete / person with varied experiences, with varied people. But how they get to me is either a referral from a previous person, or they kind of find me. So the gram is probably the way I'm contacted the most.
Yeah, I've handed out some advice or seen the pitfalls of the youngsters. I guess my contradiction is, I guess, a positive social media. The athletes are putting the gym on social media. They're putting training, eating well. So you want to emulate that. You're like, that's how he got so quick. But I think they miss the skill acquisition, because like every time you go training, it's probably like less energy to like go mess around in the car park with your buddies. And I think you can learn training and fix physical weaknesses easier than you can skill deficits and speed. That's just me personally. Like I'd rather them be messing around on their bikes more when they're young, and then they can learn their racecraft later.
Yeah, this is a good conversation, because my son, they ride bikes. They can ride bikes, but they don't. So it's not their thing. But my youngest is in basketball. And he was in soccer before that, competitive for that age level, which is, but I noticed soccer has been really good about developmental, like learning the game and developing the skill. So they're I think from how you matriculate through is probably it's really good, actually, in my opinion. Basketball, at least my experience with it, all they do is play basketball, which is fine. But I'm noticing that, you know, once they get to a certain age, they probably should include some just physical stuff, because the sport is so demanding. So, but you know, it's interesting. Each sport kind of has these mentalities. By the way, parents are crazy in all sports. So there's that. So it's not just motocross, BMX.
We can't forget to talk about that. Yeah.
I do think that it's just interesting, the development of it, like the skill versus the physicality of it. But you do get to a point at a certain age where you want to learn how to lift a weight, learn how to, you know, what those functional movements are and all that other stuff. But I don't know. Part of me is like a little bit, I don't want to say sad, but part of me is, I will say is a little sad, because to me, a lot of that has sucked some of the fun out, I think, for some of the kids, even though that's all they know, kind of.
Oh, 100%.
Even if they're not even competitive, when I say competitive, even if they're not trying to be pro or trying to get a scholarship, it's so regimented versus play. Like, hello, play means playing, means non-structured. It's play. Like, that is the definition, right? And so there's so much that you gain from that free play. So when you were younger and you went out on your bike for 4 hours and you did some stuff and you came home and maybe you were kind of like thinking, man, how am I gonna not tell my parents we did this? How am I gonna make sure I get to the mailbox before they find out my teacher? You know, all those little things those are a lot of skill sets in there. How am I gonna, you know, maybe you got in a fight, maybe you, maybe you crashed, maybe you something broke on your bike and you had to like rig it to get back, like all those different versus like having someone hop out of a van and then your dad's got the pump and and by the way, like I'm guilty of it too. When I went to the bike park, me and my 3 kids, it's like, oh, your brake's broken? Boom, I had an extra set of brakes. Like it was like NASCAR. There was no, we didn't skip a beat. But it's in that figuring it out and muddling through and bumping into people, even if it's in good fun play, that you learn a lot, and that is to me a richer experience. Anyways, and yes, parents are crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can unpack that. I do. Yeah, I'll just add. I do think. Yeah, there's a time and a place, and if you see the results, and maybe he's a little weak on the pedaling, fine, I get it. But the minute you introduce that structure and the coach, and even the mental coach, I'm sure you do an incredible job depending on the age. Keep it fun and like it's not a problem. I would love to have worked with you earlier, but when there's a coach and there's like it's an interval day and it's like, dude, that's cool. But once you get pro, it's all that and it's all structure and it's years of that to the point that you get burnt out. I was burnt out. It's monotonous. Like you said, it's boring. Even as a mountain biker, luckily there were moto days and there was this day and then it's road bike and it's pump track. Luckily there were different variations. But say the kid's into cross country and you got him on the latest XC carbon bike and you got him a coach already and he needs to win his under 15 category. Mate, by the time he's under 19 or under 21 and he had all the talent in the world, he might say, I'm so burnt out. I want to go to the bar and hook up with some chicks. Yeah. Because it's just not fun anymore. And that's what I preach. Like, and I'm now a dad. So I'm like, I'm seeing ahead as well. I'm like, okay, what golf clubs am I getting? I've got the bikes lined up in the garage. I already put him on one and it's too big. And then he cried. I'm like, oh, don't associate the bike with crying. Okay, stop doing that. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. But I can see that, of course, it's going to happen. So maybe educate me on the pitfalls of being over eager as a parent.
So
and
the parent brain, wanting the best for the kid, right? The parent brain is this. The parent brain is this. Okay. I have a parent brain too, but your kid is born, and baby goo goo gaga, great, and then pretty soon after they're born, anything that kid does that's remotely positive, your brain goes to wedding speeches, graduations, okay? Anything that kid remotely does that's sideways or seemingly negative, your brain goes to 2 a.m. driving to the police station or, in a gutter.
Yeah, I cause a lot of shit to my parents. You're like, whoops.
That's the parent brain. And by the way, you knew you when you were a kid. That's the other piece.
Dude, I know. I'm like, I don't know how we survived half the shit we did.
There you go. Right. And so all of that, right? We're bringing all of that into this thing, right? And obviously you want the best for your kid. And especially if you actually have like the means or the ability to
give them more than you had,
knowledge, right? like you know when the bike doesn't fit right. Like that's gonna bug you. It's not gonna bug the kid.
Like, dude, your brake is wrong. I need to bleed this brake.
Like, why do you like one lever up and one lever down? Like, what is up with that? Yeah. Real conversations I've had, right? No, I like it like this. Like, okay. So
that's amazing.
That's that's the parent brain. I will say though, it's when we're kind of when we're living, and I think there's a certain degree of living through them that's fine and should be. Like your heart should be filled when they do something great, and you should be concerned with the grades are dropping or they don't have that many friends. Like those are real things to be concerned about. But there is a piece of letting them take their own hits that's hard to do. Letting them take their own hits. And we say we want them to have it better than we had it. But check it out. They probably already do without you having to try to do that. you know, and so, vitamin N is actually pretty good, which is the word no. And it's funny, it's ironic because in my first book, I wrote like a kid here, about how many times a person hears no and how that relates to beliefs. But the truth is, limits and boundaries are good for children because it represents safety, right? And I'm talking like from a standpoint of, what's acceptable in the household, what's not, different standards. But if it becomes too rigid or stringent, the child might be scared to move, or they might rebel in a certain way, which, by the way, is somewhat natural anyway, given a certain, where kids are in their development. There is a piece where kids are scared to move naturally. There is a time where kids are going to rebel anyway, right? So I kind of view it as like, I don't know, bowling's not a big sport maybe in South Africa, but it is in the US, especially in Wisconsin or something like that. There's, it's bowling with bumpers. We just want to keep them out of the gutter, but they got to make their way down the lane.
Okay. I like
they
that.
got to make their way down the lane.
Must be super hard. I can only guess how
hard.
difficult that, like, not even the physical bump he's going to get on his head that I got to let happen. It's the emotional, and it's you only learn by doing.
I mean, our kid, we went to the hospital, I don't know how many times last year for injury, just sport related. But I said, okay, well, I raced BMX for my life. Like, I remember my hand's cut, my nose is cut, my bone is, like, it's just, my turn to, they take their licks. So it's kind of like knowing, gas, clutch, brake, right? It's kind of like knowing when to put the gas, when to apply the brake, and when to clutch it a little bit. And so, they have both parents in the house. Sounds like your kids have both parents in the house. Sounds like both parents care a lot. Just that in and of itself goes a long way.
I heard that. Like, someone said, if you're worried about that the kid has enough XYZ and is going to develop correctly in the first 3 years, if you're even aware of that conversation, you're doing enough. Just needs love, food, shelter, care.
Yeah.
Like, it's just those basics. So it's super. Thanks for sharing that. I like the bowling analogy and the gas pedal. It's like, hang on, you're getting a no now. we are putting these boundaries in. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The cool part is you'll get to know them as people, which is cool. Which I think is kind of cool. Because as they get older, they'll say things, and you're like, how do you? My wife's really good at, like, how do you know that? My son's like, because I can read. Basically, he's saying I'm actually more than just your kid, right? He's not saying that, but that's how I translate that. But it is, she's impressed. It's like, oh man, like, this person has their own life and their own opinions. And so if you can work to get to know them as people instead of like trying to mold it so much and just kind of like, all right,
interesting.
Or dictate it. It's, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've made plenty of parental mistakes along the way, but I noticed as they went through their stages, and I have a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old, the guidance that's needed it changes a bit. And then each kid might need different inputs. One kid might need the screws put to him a little bit more because of the type of person they are and the liberties they would take. And the other one, you might be able to back off on certain things. Like my youngest, we don't worry about his schoolwork as much as we used to with the oldest. But guess what? The oldest is like, oh man, I really need to do good. Like, he came home the other day bummed about a test. I'm like, who are you? But I was like, and then he's like, he was bummed. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, you care. Like, that's great. Like, some tests are going to go good, some are not, but you look like you studied, look like you tried to prepare. Like, that's, you put in the effort and you gave it a shot, and sometimes it doesn't go your way. But that was the one we used to worry about schoolwork with. Do you see what I'm saying? So like, your kids are also going to give you some surprises that you just don't expect along the way.
What a ride. Yeah, I'm trying to
Yes.
strap myself in for sure.
Yeah, talk
man.
about Dark Fest.
No,
You're in like,
yeah.
yeah, the Abyss Fest. You have children.
Man, I only got one, but
Oh, okay. Well, you have a
turns out
kid.
I have a
There you
kid.
go.
Crazy. Turns out racing down a hill, missing trees and hurtling over rocks and shit was easy. But turns out, who would have thought?
Yeah, I know.
At breakneck speeds. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then give me some mad no-nos or like the craziest BMX parent story, moto. Like, what is it with some of these parents? What are they doing? Are they just living too much through their kid? What are you seeing?
Everyone gets, I love the passion that goes into a sport. And I'm going to go like moto bikes at least. But well, I'll just go sports in general. But I don't want to say the no-nos. I think one of the no-nos for me is right after the race, right after the game, and you're in the car going home. Like, we don't need to talk about what just happened necessarily, especially if it went bad. Like, just, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you want to get some food? Like, what's your day going to be like tomorrow at school? Like, we don't need to get into, you could have taken an extra pedal, or you missed, or your foot position was wrong on the ball, or you don't need to get it. Because guess what? That kid's better than you at that thing. Probably, when it starts,
yeah.
Even like in
probably
BMX,
better than you've ever been.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of parents now who did the sport, but even still, it's evolved to a certain way to where, two is, generally speaking, no one's happy to lose or mess up. So just give it some space. One, the other thing is, rather than just pointing out the mistake, when you do talk about it, or if they bring, and by the way, I would practice this too. Even if my son wanted to bring it up in the car, I'd be like, hey man, like let's talk about it later. Not to like cut him off or anything, but
and what does how does he respond to that?
Because he hates losing. He hates.
What does he say
losing.
when you say maybe we talk about it another time?
So he's like the coach. He's like, oh man, the coach did this, or the refs were that. I'm like, well, I was like, hey, let's talk about it later. I said, but but then when we have time afterwards, if he's still complaining, because what I don't want is like this habit of complaining. That is like a complaining, worrying, complicating, and comparing are like surefire ways to run yourself into the ground and, go the exact opposite direction you want to go around those things. So I try to nip that and by the way, I'm a recovering complainer. I was great at complaining. And
I'm shit hot as well. My brother's the founder of it, but me and him can have a good rant.
It took so much away from me getting a better gait. It took so much away from me getting the most out of the race. It took so much away from sponsorship opportunity even. Like, seriously, it cost me money complaining.
Oh, shit. No, this is not just a joke. This is
No,
real.
it cost me money complaining. And it's like, my eyes were just not on the ball. Like, bad coaching, bad refereeing is part of the sport. The fact that there's a shady promoter is part of the sport. The fact that the payout's terrible is part of the sport. I'm not saying you like it, but I'm saying do something with it at the appropriate time. So anyways, back to parents and cars. So like, if you can, to the best you can, just give yourself space after the race or after the event and the car ride home, or and just live life and then kind of go at it. But then, and rather than just pointing out the mistakes, maybe just ask like, how was it for you? And you might get a smart ass answer. What do you think? I lost, It's like, okay, yeah. But okay, that sucks. I said, but like, what do you think happened out there? Where do you think it went bad? And you might just be like, oh, I wasn't hitting my shots, or da-da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, well, were your feet in the right position? Then like have them talk through how it went bad. Have them talk through, and then you can even point out some things. Well, it looked like you were still hustling out there. It seemed like you still, or whatever. And don't get me wrong, there's times where that kid might just give up on themselves. And then if that did happen, that's not a mistake. That's a conversation about responsibility. It's like, hey man, I know it's hard out there, but it looked like you might have given up. They might defend against that, but it's like, hey, you just recognize there's a team or there's a this. And it's like, you signed up, you want to see it, you just want to try to finish strong, even if it's going bad, right? Those kinds of, that's how you want to try to have that conversation. But you don't want to make it seem like I need to do good so my parents will be happy. If you got that dynamic, that's no bueno. Because every kid, generally speaking, wants to please their parent. I mean, I'm an adult child. I'm 50. I want, my dad passed away. It was important to me that he was proud of me.
Yeah, totally.
Straight up. But
yeah, I guess that's
he
the
didn't
last
make
thing
it
you
about.
want.
But he didn't make it. He wasn't like, don't embarrass. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're walking into a wedding. It's like, don't embarrass me, or church. But it's like me doing well at a race wasn't like I need to win so my dad is happy or my mom is happy or my parents don't fight. That's not a good situation.
Shame, and some athletes and kids are in that situation. Yeah, it's hard, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That is a real thing.
Yeah, I got a letter from somebody wanted me to work with their son, not in bikes, in a board sport. And basically the dad was basically saying he's this level, top ranked in this blah, blah, blah. But he's lazy and just doesn't want to put in the work. And I think the kid maybe was 12. Anyways, so I referred them to someone, but it's like, come on. I don't know what he means by lazy, but one, versus the letter that's like, oh, my kid's so-and-so, he's ranked so-and-so, I think it'd be good if he learned some tools to calm himself down or to focus or to not be so hard on himself. You see the difference?
Yeah. I mean, I would just guess that there's unrealistic expectations handed down to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like lazy on whose graph of laziness? Mm-hmm. The dad's?
And not to mention...
what? Because, my dad was the funniest. He would just be pissy if we didn't appreciate and put the effort in for our talent level. This is when we started doing well.
Yeah,
it's like he always is famous. He's like, you kids have got more talent in your little pinkies that I got in my whole body. Don't squander it. And it was never the result. It was if I had a party before a race or I didn't put the work in, because he sacrificed a lot. Both parents did, to get us to races. And when we had shown the drive and the talent, then the bikes were on par to perform. Mm-hmm. But I never felt the result. It was always the effort. If you put the effort in, he'll back us 100%.
So,
and not like that, you're lazy. He's just well, you say you want this and you're squandering, you're not showing with your actions.
Right. That's funny. My dad said that too. He said, well, if you want, because my brother was the fast one. He was factory sponsor with Mongoose, teammates with John Tomac, legit as an amateur. And then he decided not to race. He got a driver's license, all this other stuff, and, one thing, which is fine. But then I came along and started to get more serious and I wanted to start racing and traveling and live that factory life, or at least work toward it. And my dad just said, well, if you want to race these races, I got to see you practicing. He never said training wasn't a thing, but I need to see you practicing. Yeah. So I would be on my rollers every night. And then if I did that, I knew I could go to a race. That was the tax to go race.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty even exchange. I'm going to recommend a couple of books because you mentioned something. So one book is called Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she talks about... I've
heard of it. I'll write it down. Yeah.
Yeah. She talks about praising the effort, not the result.
Yes.
You can celebrate.
Yeah, but that's huge in kids psychology these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the result, the effort you put in.
Yeah.
There's all
and I'm not saying don't celebrate the win. Go for the pizza party if you do well. or get extra pepperoni.
No, they celebrate the win, but there's is that test in there where they did half of the class were praised on the result and half were praised on the effort, and then they did another test, and then obviously the people that were praised with the effort they put in did better on the more challenging test that came after that, correct? I love that theory.
I'm gonna give you 3 books. Sorry,
please, dude, let's go.
Another one is called, which I just think is just in general for every human, is called Stumbling on Happiness.
Okay.
Yep. And that talks about how we think if we do this or get that, we just envision this kind of utopia kind of existence, when it's not necessarily the case. But then the other one, and then the other one that kind of goes along with that, it's called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. It's a little more dense.
It's quite a dense read. I started it, but I actually haven't finished it. I'm really into those style of books. I've got it on the bookshelf. Thinking fast and thinking slow. Yeah, a lot. Maybe it's like a slow series on Netflix where like the first episode's a bit slow, and then you get hooked.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm a BMXer who, undercover mountain biker, not so much undercover anymore. I'm a psychologist, undercover behavioral economist. I'm kind of like those are kind of my, I'm out of the closet with mountain biking. But yeah, with the behavioral economics, but a lot of it overlays.
It's called behavioral economics.
Yeah, that's like Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. That's a behavioral economics book.
Why do they use the word economics? What is the definition?
Well, because
how does it relate to that?
Because it talks about behavior being incentivized or disincentivized, and how we can be pushed to do certain things or not do certain things based on on an outcome we might get, whether it's in like I'm going to win this cup, or I think I'm going to feel better about myself in the future, and so therefore I'll do this. Anyways, it's just an interest of mine that helps inform me in other ways. And it's like we're psychology, not economics is like financial necessally economics, but economics.
No, I need to like look at the definition of it to help me understand. Like a behavioral side, I get like I would. Behavioral.
You've been exposed to it already. You probably just don't. Like once you start looking into it, you're like, oh, I heard of that, or I heard of that.
Yeah, totally. No.
Yeah.
I said,
for an instance, so as an example, you remember the movie Beautiful Mind?
Not off the top of my head. I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of another example that's pretty popular. But that would be a good example of kind of collective bargaining. UCI. There we go. Now we can. But basically, these guys were at the bar.
Was a smooth segue. Let's
go. We go. These guys were at the bar, and there's a group of guys and a group of women. And there was one woman who's like really attractive. And then the guy was like, wait, we can't all go for the one woman because none of us will probably get her. But if we all go for a woman in the group and none of us go for the good looking women, our chances of getting a phone number or whatever is much better. And that was like the big shift for them. I
think you're actually referencing a pickup artist book called The Game. So maybe I'm teasing. No, but I know they use. Is that behavioral economics? Yeah. Collective bargaining. Yeah. So these pickup artists use like a lot of actual smart psychology. One of them is that hit on the potential. Let me put this nicely: woman they may not want to marry one day, and then the other one feels left out or whatever the psychological thing is happening there. And she's obviously then more interested when they do turn attention
scarcity.
Yeah, scarcity. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I love. I'm fascinated by that stuff.
But the stumbling on happiness and the growth mindset will help everyone, and definitely can help parents for sure.
Awesome. Okay, you segue to the UCI. Mm-hmm. Where's BMX at the moment, and then like segue into maybe your psychological analysis of what on earth's going on with the new with like the new organizers, the athletes. Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of the announcing pre-COVID for the World Cups and World Championships. It was myself and Rich Eames. Rich Eames still does the announcing, which I loved. It's great going to a race with zero care of how you do in the race because you're just announcing the race. That's a very free
yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm bummed I don't do it anymore either. It's
I miss that.
I was really thankful.
That said, so my experience with UCI was obviously we were doing world championships and all that stuff, and that was our only at the time. That's like 1994, long time ago. So UCI was like, what's that? But that's what it was. Because BMX in the US, we didn't need the UCI. We had ABA, NBL. Anyways, long story bearable. It became Olympic. World Championships and World Cups started to, World Cups became a thing, more of a thing, but World Championships started to mean more. But I just, in kind of following the mountain, but so where BMX is, we're on our 8, 12, 16. So we're going into like the 5th Olympic cycle for racing and 3rd for freestyle, something like that. And honestly, the racing's great. I'm not a big fan of the big hill, but whatever. That's just a fact now. I don't know. And mountain bike has been in the Olympics since 96, I think, since Atlanta. So I don't know that it moved the needle, so to speak. Hey, man, you're wise beyond your years.
You're welcome. You can use it.
Thank you.
Trademark.
I don't think it moved the needle so much as we thought it might. What happened was the funding shifted.
Interesting.
So the funding shifted. So I'd say globally, a lot of a lot of racers, men and women who wouldn't normally make a living could, because the countries found it valuable to support it, because that's the Olympic effort means something different from a governing standpoint. From an industry standpoint, up and down, but BMX is so hyper niche and because the bikes became what they are, like I think unfortunately less people can even relate to it. Which is my segue into this UCI mountain bike thing. My fear is that, and I don't think it will, because people enjoy mountain biking and hanging out with friends and nerding out over the latest shock or brakes or electronic whatever, or even hating on it. But so there's a fan base there. But from a racing perspective, my fear for the racers is that it doesn't alienate the average mountain bike person. Because as a racer who was complaining and advocating for other racers, for us to have this or do that, I think some of the things we got didn't necessarily improve the sport.
And these were things you thought that the sport needed, or you tried to advocate
we might,
for.
So for instance, with the tracks, I mean, I think and I like big jumps and big tracks, but I think all of it together, I think there's a lot of people who look at it and go, there's no way my kid's doing that, because it's too dangerous.
It's stunting the growth of the sport.
Correct. It's too dangerous. Freestyle is another thing, like, because it is about tricks, but it's individual. But but a traditional track you can make spectacular, but they just didn't do that. I didn't want the big hill, but we collectively asked for it. So there's a lot of things that I think we wanted that kind of came to be, and we didn't know the adverse effects to it. So, so with the UCI and the kind of like, and by the way, this happened with World Championships too. When I got that jersey, I wouldn't, based on the rules now in BMX, I wouldn't have been allowed to race that World Championships.
What, on the point system or what?
Well, back then, you sign up. You send in your entry fee and you race, and then your country gives you, you get your. Actually, we just had a patch on our jersey. Then we didn't even have to wear country jerseys in '94, but it was relatively open, is my point. And I understand the limits of mountain biking, and I understand you can't have 1,000 people on the track and all. But I'm just saying in BMX, it's like, I made both my finals. I won cruiser. I made the 20 inch. I didn't win that, but I wouldn't have. It's just interesting that I wouldn't have technically qualified because it was my first world championships. I didn't have, and I was 19, so I might have even been. There's like a U23 class now, so there's just kind of those things that have changed. So with mountain biking, I just hope that it doesn't alienate the people who are really fans of this thing. And also you got to recognize some of the fans actually support it because they are racers. So the other thing that I think might, from an unintended consequence, might happen, because I think World Cup racing is great. I think I'm a fan of the World Championships. I always feel like that should be at the end of the season rather than like a couple races before. But anyways, that's an aside. There was a time I remember where, I said in BMX, we didn't need the UCI. Given the trajectory of things, at least right now, it could be that the riders don't, it could be to a point where the US series is such, the Australian series grows to be such, and IXS, I mean, granted, World Cups are in Europe, but it could be to where, a lot of the talent that possibly could be at a World Cup or UCI race are choosing not to, because the Monster Cups, the Monster Series is so much so, or there's money at the US Open, or there's money here, or the red, like there's other series popping up that can actually compete and are seemingly more open, or maybe actually more open, that might actually take away from the best talent competing in the UCI. So what I'm saying is, I hope that some of these changes don't backfire on the UCI in general, and kind of, because remember, I remember in the US, like Norba back in the day, there were a lot of international riders living here and racing our series, North American Off-Road Mountain, whatever it was called, Norba.
Yeah, I raced in Norba. It was my first year over.
Yeah. And a lot of people would come here and they would race here. They would camp out in the US and I remember it was a point where, as a BMXer, I would hear mountain bikers, like US guys, say something like, "Oh yeah, I was top American in Vermont." I'm like, top American? Like, because there were so many foreign people.
No, it was
doing the series here.
Yeah, it was huge. It was really huge.
And so with any racing, you want the integrity to be as high as possible, right? And what does that mean? That means as fair as possible, right? And that also means that the best people are at your race, right?
Yeah,
I mean, to me,
no. That it's happening in other sports with the divide in golf, with this live in the PGA and stuff. And I think there's a world where someone like Aaron Gwynn, I'm not saying this is happening. It's literally, I'm not spreading a rumor. Like, he might race more in America than go to the World Cups. Now, that's not entirely because of the changes to the World Cup. It's just like, okay, but there's a place that's adding value potentially to sponsors that maybe are more American based, or they're going to get enough value from that new Monster Pro Downhill series, right? So that's one big name. Say that happens, because it's a little harder to go over, or and there's other riders. It's like, okay, I'm not going to be in the top 30, so I'm not going to get on TV, fine. I'm not even in the final now, so then I might as well just go to Hardline, go to Crankworks, go to these races. Now we're diluting the talent to like all these different places. So I'm as fearful as you, as well as maybe it goes full circle and we have two series, and the glue, the annoying glue that might keep it together is the World Championship stripes.
Yeah.
And unless the teams band it together and the riders to say, we're not going to value that anymore, then you could go race anywhere.
Yeah. I would imagine you. I mean, I don't know. And what I don't know is the exact rules, but what qualifies you to race world champs. And it seems like there's drama in each country as to who gets picked sometimes.
There certainly is.
And sometimes it's like you qualify to race the world champs, but your governing body won't send you anyway, or won't allow you to race even if you're willing to pay. That's just ignorant to me. But the thing is, the industry has a different objective than the race promoter, right? And I get that the UCI it seems like they're looking to put together this nice product that's packaged well, that is a product that can be like, something it's an asset for them can be sold for TV and all this other stuff. But it's also interesting too, in that everyone is their own broadcaster now. Whether it's series or individual, I don't know that someone's just going to flip on the channels and like stumble on like a mountain bike race and turn it on, and then all of a sudden go buy a transition or Specialized just because, like, you know what I mean? It's not like there's back in the day, or like in the US there was CBS, NBC, and ABC. That was it, and that's what you saw. So I understand the media impressions are valuable, but at the same time, a lot of people have control of a lot of different types of media. So I don't know. So someone like an Aaron Gwynn, or they might just say, well, Crestline is a North American brand. We already got one of the most winningest guys. He operates a bike park. Like, there's all these different plays to make that valuable from an industry standpoint, to where, and all Aaron would, and by the way, there's 2 World Cups in North America. Go to those. You'll probably be top 20, top 10, shut everyone up, and then, solidify this, and then however they choose world champs. But that's one race, one lap, no crap. It's
one lap, no crap. I like that.
It's kind of top. I'll be nice and say top 3 or nothing, but the truth is, second place kind of sucks at the world championships.
Yeah, you'd rather get third.
Yes. And trust me, I've gotten a lot of podiums, but I made a lot of world championship finals, but if I let myself, it will be a bad day if I let myself think about all those missed opportunities. So
yeah, we had an interesting time. Obviously, you can diagnose me however you wish on the personality. It's tough for me not to share an opinion, be outspoken. Mm-hmm. Maybe it gets me in trouble, but I guess I just am so passionate about like the longevity and what the sport gave me, and to pass it on. And I'm fearful of those. Like, I agree with changes, and I agree we can't just stagnate. And then sometimes I go, okay, but the timing of the implementation, I feel like there's a knock-on effect we're not being honest about, and all these things. Like you say, okay, there's eyeballs, but do we lose the core demographic? And the core demographic's the one that buys a bike. So then the bike industry maybe suffers, and the bike industry is taking the riders to the races. And you're like, I don't have a crystal ball. I just have like a lot of questions and worry, I guess.
Just the honest communication of it to the people who do support it.
Yeah, I think we deserve that. I think that's fair.
If you really are like, hey, it costs too much and we want to sell it for this, and this is, but when you hear things like, oh, well, these teams got the message that this was happening, but not these other teams, what's that about? Like, that's just egregious. And by the way, as a top pro rider back in the day, I remember being on both sides of that. Happened to riding for the right team and getting the phone call, and happened to not be riding for the right team and not getting the phone call, and hearing about it, at breakfast, and then running to the track kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm just, my sense of justice is like a little bit,
justice and fairness. I can hear, like principle and fairness. And I think what's ironic is I've had conversations off the record, quite long ones, where I'm like, now that you've communicated, I understand your thinking and the bit of the red tape that you're allowed to tell me, I'm like, I agree with it. I didn't agree before we got on the phone. Thank you so much for taking the time. Not going to say who it is, but I'm like, come on the podcast. come and have a 2-hour conversation, because I guarantee you more people will be like, oh, I don't even agree with it, but I understand it. And
Yeah.
cool. I just think like we need more transparency in the world and stuff. Like if you just get ahead, you just get ahead of it. That's how I would tackle it. But why don't they?
Here's a very benign example of that. Okay. When I was announcing, before I was announcing, I was like, this sucks. Why don't they say who these people are riding for? Okay. Which I think is a very fair thing to do. And don't get me wrong, I try to slip it in here or there. That's probably why I'm not announcing anymore. But there's this
I probably said something wrong as well.
But what I learned from the professionals who produce the show, who are from I think they're from the UK, that there's this thing called undue prominence, which means you can't just go blurt out every brand out there, because there's people who paid for this and there's other people who have rights to this show, right? And that little thing was like, okay, fair enough. So I try to slip it in there when I could, but there's those little things that people, right? And I'm in the circle. Well, I'm not in the circle, but I'm kind of in, right? I have access. I didn't know, right? But once I knew, I was like, oh, I understand, right? So that's just a benign example. But you're right. Like if they actually just kind of, and if you didn't have to dig through the UCI website and like look at all, I mean, it's so terrible.
Maybe do a press conference or a couple more podcasts. Like, okay,
correct.
Whatever. I'm selfishly like open to having more chats. Fine, but literally, like everyone's like, oh, we decrease the amount of teams, and this is the knock-on effect. And it's like, okay, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, because you want to go have more races, which means we've got to go to more venues. Some of those venues can't house all the teams. Right. So that's a red tape problem. So then they're like, how do we solve that? Okay, we're going to have to decrease the team and the riders. Now, maybe I don't agree with all the methods. However, I'm not in the room to understand why they did it. So maybe I would agree. So it's like all those, if they came out and just said, this is why, which I know why on a lot of things. That's why I have really not been that outspoken the last year. I'm like, I'm trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. No one's trying to purposely make decisions that would negatively affect long term. Like, you said, okay, we wanted this, we got this in BMX and it had this effect. You didn't do it on purpose. You just said, we tried it, it didn't work. So yeah, I guess transparency is a challenge. Like, why do people not do that then? Psychologically.
I think there's, and that's the other piece. So a couple years ago, last year in BMX, the World Championships was canceled. Not for pros, but for the challenge classes, the amateur classes. They call it the World Challenge. They canceled it. They started the race day and then they went on track times, which if you know BMX, you race with other people. So going by track times is kind of suspect anyway. And you're just trying to qualify through. Again, some people got the memo. Some people didn't, that they would go by track times, or at least some people knew the rule. So that's one problem. The other problem was it was like sunny and beautiful 2 hours after they canceled the race. And then the track's just sitting there like empty. No one's using it. Again, you made the decision. Okay. But no one understood why and what was involved. So people are like, was it an insurance issue? Was it a safety issue? Was there some kind of TV? Like nobody knew why, but it was just like, we canceled it. That's it. Like they basically just, what's the word? Gaslit people would be and so it's the arrogance of it that I think is not appreciated. And, Americans are very like, we like everyone has a shot and everyone should have a chance. Like we're definitely, I think, and we're definitely more outspoken than a lot of other cultures. So that doesn't sit well with us. All that said is, I think there is a bit of condescension / arrogance, or at least it comes off that way. Like we know better, or we have a plan, but it's the not communicating that down. And the truth is there are people who do Granted, they weren't asked to, but they do make concessions, right? They do go into debt. They do decide not to go to school. They do take a year's worth of salary and it's like, okay, I'm going to go for this thing. And then to kind of pull that
Yeah.
plug. And not only just people, but companies, like actual businesses that are operating, right? So it's those type of things. So then when you see the price hike fee and then you see less teams, it's like, whoa, and granted, like, again, everyone's making their own choices. It's a marketplace that's open, so competition. But I don't think it's the job of any promoter, and I'm not saying they are. I repeat, I am not saying they are, to pick winners and losers as much as it is to provide the space so that we can find out who the winners and losers are. But everyone who's participating in the circus needs to have the same information at the same time and more of it.
Yeah. Do you think part of it's like they don't want to deal with like the backlash? They like give a reason, then people like pick apart the reason. They're like, you see, this is why I don't give a reason. Like, I don't want to deal with drama. It's like the rules set, we're not going back on it. So they just like, it's like less admin to do it. Interesting, you say that. So hike the prices of teams, if we're talking about on the mountain bike side. Little birdie told me it sounds like a lot more, but there's certain things included.
Oh, cool.
They say a certain amount of the pit space say it's for free, and the team's like, it's not for free. We're paying for that certain amount. Just change the wording. It's not free. But if you add it all up, what you get included
there's so payment, with the increased fee, there's more value.
Yeah, there's actually, so then the value that you used to have to add on, so you used to pay less, but then you have to buy like extra pit space and XYZ. The price difference isn't as absorbent as what we have in our heads. But they haven't come out and said that yet. The team's having to like figure it out and communicate it internally. I'm like, oh, okay. So then now I understand a bit more. Cool. Do I agree with it? No, but I know why. I'm like, I don't know. Everyone does things differently. So I guess
yeah.
I'm just going with the flow more.
And then you look at, and then so great. So the UCI has a great product, World Cup downhill racing, and it is great. I'm a fan. I will say, while I'm a fan of Max Commensal from back in the day with Sun and that whole and racing against his athletes, I don't know that I want to see 3 to 5 Sun teams out there when I know there's like other brands. You see, that's the other piece. It's like, well, and granted, fair play. Like they have the money, they got the initiative. They feel it's important. They've qualified all that other stuff. But it's that kind of thing too. It's like, well, there's, it's an unfortunate thing. But I guess maybe you'll see some of those other brands and other teams and other riders in other places. But you got to recognize some of those people have a following. Some of those people have value. Some of those people will be bringing along. So that's what I'm saying. Like, hopefully it grows the pie. I don't think anyone's like not wanting that pie to grow for riders, for the sport, all that stuff. I just hope that it doesn't. Yeah, my fear is just kind of the unintended consequences, which no one can think about really. They're unintended, and just that some of these things don't backfire. Like that World Cup racing doesn't alienate. Even the average rider who would and should race it, but it's like, I'm going to do Red Bull and free ride and the, blah, blah, blah series. That's the thing. It could actually be poaching itself from future talent, whether they qualify or not.
Yeah, well said, man. That's definitely one of my worries for sure, man. This has been, we could go on for hours, man. But as we wrap it up, where does everyone find you, follow you, and what are you up to for next year?
My Instagram is at real Dr. J Rich. That's at REALDRJRICH. My website is drjasonrichardson.com. That's the best way. And if you contact me, I will get back to you. It's just like that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. No,
I'll probably be at Sea Otter. I'll probably be at a few events this year as well.
I recommend the follow because you do some cool videos where it's like actionable life advice as well through the lens of like an athlete stuff. I like the Instagram.
My reels.
Yeah, you got your reels, man.
Yeah.
And hey, one of our buddies, EC, I think I want to pay homage to him. He kept things fun for me, and he was like, whenever you guys are not motivated, go sit your ass in traffic. That'll cure your ass to getting a real job. And that stuck with me. He's really good at being grateful for wherever he is in life, you know? So I think I'd love to like give him a shout out, you know?
Yeah, I love that dude. Interesting story. So EC is 5 years older than me, and him and my brother raced each other when they were amateurs back in the day. So to me, like, he's a big deal. Was a big deal, especially when you're 10 years old, right? And then it turned out that me and EC were racing each other as pros. But I get chills when I say it, but one of the best experiences I've had on a bike, and I'm saying like ever in life, Big Bear, bike park, run into EC and his son, and I'm there with my kid, and we're just doing this lap down, down Party Wave or something. But it was so cool. But the cool part about it was there's me and this guy I used to race going down the hill with our kids.
Oh man.
But the awesome part was like it was that, plus it was not a slow lap. Like everyone
Dude, like, with the egos out. With the egos.
No, it wasn't, but it wasn't competition. It was just like we were just all just getting after it. And it was cool. Like, it was fun just hitting the jumps, but it was just so cool. Like, I never in my lifetime as a 19-year-old kid who, was racing pro and figuring it out with someone like EC would think that 25 years later, I'm going to have the best time of my life on a bike with our kids. Like, if our kids were there, it wouldn't have been the best time of our life. You see what I'm saying? Of my life. But because it was that, it just made it so special. So thanks, EC.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I think that's an awesome nugget to end on. I hope you guys are pumped to go out and ride, the listeners. And interesting stat, there's a really high percentage that are consuming the content on YouTube and audio that are not subscribed. I hope you then subscribe.
I'm subscribed.
Sir Dr. Jason Richardson, please. It'll do me a good favor. Then I can have more chats like this. So till the next episode, share it with a friend if you enjoyed it. And thanks for coming on, mate. That was so fun.
Thank you.